The Metaspeed series has certainly got some much needed softness, some much needed smoothness, but at what cost? So for me, first workout done and dusted in this shoe. Now this is the ASICS Metaspeed Edge Tokyo, and these are my first impressions. But before we get into it, a big shout out to my #1 running store, the Running Company at Geelong. I've got a link to their website in the description. Make sure you go check out that and check out all their running gear. And also guys, if you haven't done so already and you want to support this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And with the specs, this one is a neutral road racing shoe, and you're going to be able to pick it up in Australia for $380 or $270 in the US. Now in the weight, crazy lightweight package here. So this shoe, 151 grams or 5.3 ounces. Now that's in my size, a US 8.5. And in the stack, we've got 39.5 in the rear, 34.5 in the front, and that's going to give us a 5mm drop. And in the upper, the material that they're using here is Motion Wrap 3.0. So that's just an updated version of the Motion Wrap they used in the previous version. It's very similar. It's probably a little bit thinner, probably more compliant, a little bit more flexible, but breathability, absolutely excellent. With a heel counter, we've got a little bit of structure here. Well, we do at the bottom, but we've got a bit of play there at the top. In the padding department, very minimal padding, but we've just got this sort of memory foam sort of Achilles pad there that sort of rests down the center. The rest of it, there's no padding around the edge of the heel collar there at all, but I do like how it's finished off quite nicely there. But no irritation or anything like that with this little bit of padding that the shoe does have. Now with the tongue, it is paper thin again, made out of like a Alcantara or like a suede type material. It's not as flimsy as the one in the previous version, so it isn't as tricky to lay flat because it isn't gusseted, but I do wish it was just stitched in a little bit to make it a little bit more easier. Standard eyelets down either side, just reinforced, and they've got the same types of those notched shoelaces. In the lockdown department, I'm going to say it is not too bad here, so pretty good through the midfoot. I got no heel slippage in the back. In the fit, so I'm going to say true to size in the length, and in the width I'm going to say it's about normal, but there is still quite a lot of volume in the toe box, so it's quite high just like the previous model, but I do think there is slightly less volume in this model, and I do think overall the fit is better. Now build quality looks pretty good here. Stepping comfort, it's got a bit of wow factor as well. And in the outsole, so not too many changes here. So it looks almost identical as what they used in the previous model. So if it's not broke, why fix it? So predominantly ASICS grip all on the forefoot there, down the lateral side of the shoe. And we've got another little bit of rubber here in the high wear area at the back. But as you can see, exact same tread pattern. Now this ASICS grip performs amazingly in all conditions, and I expect nothing less with this new model. Now in the durability department, although it's a race shoe, it doesn't really matter, but again, historically this ASICS will do a pretty good job of protecting this super foam in the shoe. And in the midsole, so this is where most of the changes have happened with the shoe. So two types of foam now. We've got their brand new super foam as the top layer here, FF Leap. So we can see it's quite thin at the top, this FF Leap, but we get a big chunk of it here in the forefoot. Now under that, we've got our full-length carbon plate, and you can sort of see the shape of the carbon plate by the way the foams are sort of glued into the bottom of this shoe. So we've got it's quite high in the rear of the shoe, the carbon plate, and we've got a big aggressive swoop forward, and it finishes quite low in the forefoot area. Now under our carbon plate, we've got the FF Turbo Plus foam. So it's probably been tweaked from last year's model, but that is the foam that they used in the previous Metaspeed Sky and Edge Paris. Now in the geometry department, we have had probably a fairly big change here, especially for the edge, because the edge's geometry now pretty much mirrors what's going on in the Sky, and it's really close to last year's Sky, or the Sky Paris. So the edge used to have a bit of a early stage rocker, meaning that the tip forward point was further back in the shoe when in comparison to the Sky, but now this one feels very similar to the Sky Paris, and it's also very similar, if not the same, as the Sky Tokyo. So they've moved it later on in the shoe, and it is quite aggressive on toe off as well. So yeah, another big change there to the Edge users out there. And in the ride, well, the first word that comes to mind here is smooth. So a lot smoother than the previous models. A ride that is far less harsh. It's a fair bit softer, so a fair bit more sync, but I'm going to say the overall feedback of the ride for me is quite mellow. So I'm surprised by that. So yes, it's got some bounce, it's got some responsiveness, but the bounce for me feels, yeah, it feels mellow or like it's delayed. So you get the sync in, and then as you're firing off, as you're heading on down the road, you're waiting for that snap and that pop. But it is there, but yeah, it feels like it's got these millisecond of a delay. So it's kind of like if you hit a tennis racket with a ball, it's an instant pop. It's like, well, if you hit the tennis racket with the ball but had like a sheet or a blanket on the front of the tennis racket, so you've still got the pop there, but it's like this muffled or this mellow, like delayed type pop. So that's the sensation that I get out of the shoe. So I know it's there, but yeah, it just lacks that cutting edge pop and responsiveness and that pure speed feeling, I guess, that the previous models had with that super responsive foam. A big improvement though, I must say, is how this shoe feels at pretty much the slower paces. So I know it's not designed for that, but this shoe used to be quite clunky or quite harsh. Sort of if you jogged around in the shoe or in between your reps and you had to do a float or anything like that, it didn't feel the best. But now this shoe feels, yeah, quite versatile at a wider variety of paces. Now, in the geometry department, again, as I mentioned before, it's certainly changed from the Edge, so it's much later in the shoe, a little bit more aggressive on toe off, and it does feel quite propulsive when you are putting some power into the front of the shoe, but again, overall, it doesn't come across as aggressively propulsive and like an aggressively fast shoe. Yeah, just smooth, mellow, and super comfortable. And what I'm liking in the shoe so far is certainly number one, the weight. Has to be the lightest shoe I think that I've ever run in. Also really like the new ride, so how smooth it is, and also the improved comfort. And what I'm still figuring out is just the new geometry in the Sky. So they seem to have gone away from that early stage rocker. Now it's a geometry that is pretty much identical to the Sky. And dislikes in the shoe is certainly the massive price increase. I'm not sure that that is warranted. And just wrapping up my first impressions here in the Edge. So the Metaspeed series has certainly got some much needed softness, some much needed smoothness, but at what cost? So for me, it's lost that hard pop, that responsive quick edge that I think it had. It's certainly mellowed out, and I think now it certainly screamed out to me now it's like more suited to the marathon distance, and probably I'm less likely to use it or reach for it 5k, 10k, because it's just, yeah, it just doesn't feel as snappy and as poppy and as fast. But I do think it is a step in the right direction, and I think it's a more runner-friendly shoe now. Certainly it's going to get on with far more people, and it's just its ability to handle a wider variety of paces now. I think it's just going to work for more runners, or that's my prediction anyway. So saying that though, do I think this is going to be a winner for the old school Sky and Edge fans? Well, I'm not too sure yet. I'm really interested to see how if you're a fan of the Sky Paris or the Edge Paris, I'm interested to see if you're running in this shoe, how are you finding this shoe? So are you finding it feel like it's toned down a little bit? Is it too soft for you guys, or are you still finding it just as good, or if not better? But anyway guys, that's it. They are my first impressions with the Edge. Any questions you got regarding this shoe, how it compares to the Sky, because I've already run in the Sky as well, just hit me up in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Make sure you give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.